That would be the very northern part of the layout. This was before that, and I realized I had my angle iron much too high, so I lowered it down another foot. Otherwise I would have had to do that much digging and piling up everywhere on the layout. And that chair is where I sat and wondered how much more digging I wanted to do. If I didn't look at it all at once, then it wasn't so bad, but if I did, then I would probably get less done. I was trying to create a mountain range. Almost all of these big trees ended up getting cut down for one reason or another. This is my first trees, first landscaping done. I got really tired of digging, so I wanted to do something else. There's my first bridge. Sticker wood from Bill Garialdi. Got a unit for 15 bucks. I bought 2 units. I only ended up using about a half of one unit. And that's it outside. A sneak peek at the Black Arch Bridge. And this is the trestle's first coat of redwood stain. It's all nice and shiny, and I even walked across that thing a couple of times. And the logging began. And yeah, I moved that trestle when I did that logging. And you can't really tell, but that's where I did some more digging. And more digging. And some more logging. This is looking down where the high steel trestle goes through. And I got started on the digging on it. Only 3,465 more cubic ground to go through. Some more digging and some more landscaping. This is looking sort of southwest. This is the beginnings of my new forest. None of those trees actually made it. It was the littler red firs that all ended up making it. The larger the tree I attempted to transplant, the sooner they died. So I just started digging some more. And did some more digging. And you can see kind of my paths that go around a wheelbarrow of dirt can be really, really heavy. Especially after you've done a whole bunch. I was thinking about getting a motor put on that thing. Might like to get carried away and run myself over with it. And these are some of the first trees I planted. Quite a few of those red firs made it, but I lost about a third or 2/3 of all the trees I planted. I figured I planted around 600 and I ended up with around 200. And another shot of some angle iron work. And digging proceeded in a great gully. Yeah, I was giving the wheelbarrow a rest. Time to do some more logging. And the part of the layout on the lower right, that's in the tunnel. I hadn't decided yet to build the tunnel. It just sort of came to me and I thought it was a good idea, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with this area. And it seemed like the best place to put a tunnel. The whole time I was trying to get the feeling of going through the mountains, and that's awfully hard to do when you don't have a big bulldozer or any tractor at all to move dirt around. And this is where I was putting angle iron together. I'd make cuts on the horizontal surface so it would bend, and I could make curves. This is the beginning of the tunnel. It's basically a 4 by 8 by 6 foot tall hole in the ground. I figured it had to have some access inside of a tunnel that's 38 feet long. Because if you have a derailment in there and there's no access, you could be in for a long ordeal removing cars. I used metal T-posts on the sides and put some barbed wire to help hold the concrete together. And yes, I was giving the wheelbarrow a rest too. When I first did my first form on this one wall, I didn't use anything to hold back this one board. And, because I didn't think there was going to be that much force within just such a small wall, but there was. So, I later did my forms better. I probably shouldn't use this picture in any kind of resume for concrete farm working. This is further along, right before I did the ceiling in it. Another shot looking at it from the other side. And work proceeds on the valley. That was the beginning of, yes, the support for the ceiling. And the last time that daylight ever hit those tracks. Yeah, I was trying to figure out how I was going to put the steel in. And then after I got it all cut up and put into place and tied it together and stranded some barbed wire across it for some extra steel going in there, and I poured my concrete. Yeah, just a couple steps back here. That dark spot on there is a footprint of mine. I came walking up that embankment and it was dark and I stepped right on it. Wasn't even thinking. Yeah, this is it from a little bit further away. See the concrete lids that I poured on the left-hand side of the tunnel. I ended up having to break those apart to put them on the top of the tunnel. They were too heavy to move. Laid tar paper over the top of it to help for some of the moisture. I think I built this inside of 1 month, March '92. That's what the lids put on it. Those were the ends of bolts so I could have something to hold on to. Yeah, it was the first dirt going on it. Some landscaping around it. And some more logging. Another shot of some A-line work. I had originally planned to put a turntable in there, a roundhouse, engine yard. But I ended up putting another mound of dirt there, right in the middle. That shows you how much was done by hand. And ground levels, probably right where the lower bottom of your screen. This is another shot of it. I was applying water sealant to this brick before I gave it its final coat of paint. I had a tarp set up behind it and underneath it, and not very much of it went down to the plastic. This is the north end of the tunnel. Before the bridge was there, and did a little decorating on the face of it. The tunnel portal just stacked up rocks around it. Time for more digging. You can see the canyon in here developing. And a little bit more digging. This bridge here doesn't exist on the layout anymore. it began to sag severely after about 12 years. And this is my wood steel bridge. It doesn't exist exactly in the same place, and not all the pieces are in place outside right now. But I kept all the pieces and used them. And first string on across it. And another shot of it. There's the All Aristo first run ABA PAs, I think. No, the FAs. Out it goes. And I do believe I kept on digging while I was playing trains, too. But for almost a year and a half, no, it was, actually, yeah, it was about 2 years, I could only run it back and forth because there was no bridge on the other side of that tunnel. I dug that out and then just set the engine on the track. It was encased in ice, there was no way I could run the train through there. But it made for a good picture. First heavy snowdrift we have. And I didn't do any digging during this time either. This bridge almost got completely buried. It was 92 that I built my first switches. They worked for the most part. Then I had to do a little bit of tinkering with them. The gauge of them was the biggest deal. I didn't have my gauge completely correct, so I had to fix that. Here you can see the foundations made for the trestles, or the trusses, of the next bridge. The last bridge, actually. And this is one of the trusses being made right here. And you just drilled holes and put self-tapping screws in. That was a friend of mine trying to reach the top of the truss, but not quite. And this is looking north. And another shot of my friends looking at the bridge I'm building. Yes, and I'm nearing completion. I was very happy. But still a lot of work left to do on the bridge. Like painting. I scrubbed every inch of that bridge with some solvent to prep it for painting. I was a sandblaster back there, but it didn't work very well, so I had to resort to scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. Let's sneak peek at it after I painted it. Now this is the foundation, and after I put the trusses down, I made another form, and I poured concrete again to hold the trusses down as securely as possible. Each one of the foundations the smaller ones were 2 to 3 feet deep, and then the larger ones down below, those were almost 5 feet deep, and I had 5 or 6 metal T-posts hammered into the ground as well. This is me standing on the bridge. because I think I was close to being finished. Mom took the picture for me. Yeah, I was getting closer to being finished with this bridge. Meanwhile, this is where I was prepping track. I would take the tie strips off, cut every other piece of plastic out in between it so it would flex, shine up the ends of the rail, and then take them back out and solder them and screw them to the track. This is another picture of me scrubbing the track, the bridge. Oops, I missed a spot. Here comes the train for the first time across that bridge. Maybe the second or third, I'm not sure. About 2 years and 2 weeks later from the very first shot that you saw. With a tractor, I moved around the dirt that you see behind this trestle. I didn't do that all by hand. And then the weeds began to grow, and that was another problem. Yeah, I think once I had this train blown off of it by a high gust of wind, and it was not fun. I broke several trucks. No body damage to any of the cars. The engines didn't get blown over, but I lost a few springs out of the trucks, and so later guardrails came on. This is the last picture of my photo album. The train goes in the tunnel, and there's Outbound Bridge on the other side. And I just went outside now, and I'm taking some pictures from some of the angles that we were at.